A male Veterupristisaurus, 10 meters in length, was hunting for food in a dry spell. He was struggling to find any form of sustenance. His head was hung low, and he was showing signs of fatigue. Suddenly, he snapped his head up. He smelled blood. Fresh blood. This meant only one thing: prey. He immediately started sprinting towards the source of the smell. He knew some other predator had probably made a kill, but that didn't matter to him. He would use his massive size and menacing roar to make them back down. The smell led him to the shore of a river. He saw the carcass of a small Giraffatitan calf, who must have been going for a drink when it was killed. There was a large pool of blood and multiple slash marks on the dead sauropod. Whomever had made this kill had done so recently, but was now gone. Maybe his loud footsteps had scared them off. Whatever the reason, he didn't care. He grunted and began to feast on the dead sauropod. His razor-sharp teeth cut chunks of bloody flesh that slid down his gullet. He was only able to gorge himself for a short time before he heard an angry hissing sound. He pulled his blood-covered snout out of the carcass and looked up. A female Ostafrikasaurus, around 8 meters long, was standing 30 meters away from him. She stared at him with intense malevolence. She must have been the one who had killed the Giraffatitan calf. She hissed at him again, and he responded by bellowing loudly at her. Usually this was more than enough for most predators to back off, but instead of backing away, she only tensed up and hissed again. She was threatening him and giving him a warning that he had entered her territory. She may have been smaller than him, but she would defend her food and territory with her life. Growling, he paid no heed to her warnings and continued to eat away at the carcass. As he looked up again, 3 powerful claws slammed into his snout, sending him reeling back. He had underestimated the hunger of the Ostafrikasaurus. The Veterupristisaurus shook his head and grunted in pain as blood trickled down his snout. The Ostafrikasaurus continued her assault on the intruder, but the Veterupristisaurus retaliated and grabbed her left arm. He jerked his head to the side, breaking her arm with a sickening crunch. She shrieked in agony, and he grabbed her by the back of the neck. He slung her across the shore, sending her crashing to the ground and cracking her ribs. The pain she was going through as she lay on the ground was excruciating, but she knew she could not afford to lose this meal. Mustering her strength, she got back on her feet and snarled at her rival. She was going to have that carcass or die trying. This time, the Veterupristisaurus made the first move and charged. He rushed at her at top speed, mouth agape and ready to grab his enemy's neck. He seized her by the throat, but the Ostafrikasaurus was ready. Using her good arm, she slashed it right across the face of the Veterupristisaurus. Almost immediately, he let go and bellowed from the pain as blood rushed down his face. The Ostafrikasaurus stabbed a sharp claw into the right eye of her foe. The Veterupristisaurus didn't know how much more he could take, but he was just as hungry as she was, and he knew he needed to end this before he received any other major injuries. He readied himself as the smaller theropod charged him again. His rival made an attempt at slashing his face again, but he was ready and backed up several steps, the claws missing his nostrils by mere centimeters. Then, using his massive and powerful skull, he smacked his rival's head aside, which sent her reeling sideways. He seized his chance and, lowering his head, he slammed into the side of the Ostafrikasaurus, sending her crashing to the ground. She attempted to get up, but the Veterupristisaurus grabbed her by the neck and jerked his head back, severing her jugular and breaking her neck simultaneously. Blood poured from the fatal wound in her neck as she gasped her last breath. He dragged the dead body of the female Ostafrikasaurus by the tail and set it next to the carcass of the Giraffatitan. He needed to recuperate before he could hunt again. As for his ruined eye, that was one of the many hardships he would face in his life. At that moment, though, he was focusing on finishing the 2 kills that lay before him.